Why don't Muslims confess their sins to their imam? In many religious traditions, the concept of confessing sins to a religious authority, such as a priest, is a common practice. However, in Islam, Muslims do not confess their sins to any human being. Instead, they seek forgiveness directly from Allah. This practice is deeply rooted in Islamic teachings, emphasizing the mercy of Allah, personal accountability, and the importance of sincere repentance. First, the direct relationship between a Muslim and Allah. Islam teaches that every person has a direct connection with Allah. There is no need for an intermediary when seeking forgiveness. The Quran states, "And when my servants ask you concerning me, indeed I am near. I respond to the invocation of the supplicant when he calls upon me." Surah Al-Baqarah. This verse highlights that Allah is always accessible, and a believer can turn to him at any time without the need for a human confessor. Second, the concept of Tawbah, meaning repentance, in Islam. Instead of confession, Islam emphasizes Tawbah, which consists of 3 key steps. 1. Regret, feeling sincere remorse for the sin committed. 2. Stopping the sin, making a firm decision to leave the wrongdoing. 3. Seeking forgiveness, asking Allah for pardon with sincerity and determination not to return to the sin. If the sin involved wrongdoing against another person, a 4th step is added. 4th, making amends. If possible, seeking forgiveness from the person harmed or compensating them. Allah promises to forgive sincere repentance. Say, "O my servants who have transgressed against themselves by sinning, do not despair of the mercy of Allah. Indeed, Allah forgives all sins. Indeed, it is He who is the forgiving, the merciful." Surah As-Sumah 3. Maintaining privacy and dignity. Islam places great emphasis on protecting one's own dignity and the dignity of others. Publicly confessing sins can lead to unnecessary humiliation, gossip, or even exploitation. The Prophet Muhammad said, "All of my followers will be forgiven, except those who expose their sins." A person commits a sin at night, and though Allah conceals it, by morning he exposes it himself. Sahih al-Bukhari. This hadith teaches that exposing one's sins is discouraged, as Allah's mercy includes covering mistakes to give people a chance to reform privately. Fourth, Allah's attribute of being the concealer of sins. One of Allah's names is As-Satir, the concealer of sins. He does not expose people's faults unless they persist in wrongdoing arrogantly. This encourages Muslims to seek forgiveness sincerely, rather than admitting sins before others. The Prophet Muhammad taught, "Indeed, Allah is modest and concealing, and He loves modesty and concealment." Abu Dawood. Fifth, encouragement to reform instead of dwelling on the past. Islam teaches that once a person repents sincerely, their sin is erased. They should not dwell on past mistakes or be publicly labeled as sinners. This approach promotes spiritual healing and growth. The Prophet said, "The one who repents from sin is like one who never sinned." Sixth, the role of scholars and community leaders. While there is no confession in Islam, scholars or religious leaders can provide guidance to those struggling with sin. However, they do not act as intermediaries between the sinner and Allah. Their role is to advise, educate, and remind people of Allah's mercy. Conclusion: Muslims do not confess their sins to others because Islam teaches a direct and private relationship with Allah. The focus is on sincere repentance, personal responsibility, and reform. Instead of public confession, Islam encourages seeking forgiveness directly from Allah, maintaining one's dignity and striving to be a better person. This approach highlights the immense mercy of Allah, who is always ready to forgive those who turn to Him with sincerity.